Are you marketing your book on social media? If so, today's video, we're going to look at two really common mistakes that writers and creative souls make that I don't want you to make when you're marketing your book. And also we're going to explore how to promote yourself in a way that's sustainable. Really important, right? So I get it. You're a writer. You want to make a living selling books. You want to make a living writing just what you want. But what you don't want to be doing is spending 75% of your time promoting your book. So what's the mistake that's happening in this area? A mistake that really doesn't need to be happening. So the mistake is that people are spending 75% of their time promoting their books. That's actually the mistake in itself. So to basically be spending that amount of time, but also to be spending that amount of time in promotion. Now, this is a mistake because what tends to happen is you're on a social media platform, so whether it's Twitter or whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram, and 75% of your time is about saying, buy my book, here's my book, grab my discount, get 2 for 1, 99p just this weekend on my on my book download. It's all about just promoting the fact that you're selling a book. And so what tends to happen here is writers spend way more time than they actually need to spend on social media because that doesn't work. And so because it doesn't work, the mistake is that writers spend more time doing it. But what happens then is they're actually spending loads of time on social media, but it's not effective time. So how do we switch this around? So rather than spending 75% of your time promoting your book, I want for you to see it slightly differently. First of all, you've got to get totally clear about how much time you do want to spend on it. So we often get into this place where we're like, I really don't want to spend 75% of my time doing it. But if I just spend 75% of my time doing it now and get on top of it, then there will be a point further down the line when I can spend less time doing it. But I really want to let you know that it doesn't work like that. Because if you're already spending 75% of your time promoting your book, what that says to me is that you're doing something wrong. Now, I'm not saying that that's an absolute given, but I'm saying that I haven't yet had a conversation with a writer who is coming to me because they're struggling with promoting their work, who's doing everything exactly right. If they were doing everything exactly right, they wouldn't be struggling. Their work would be selling, their audience would be growing. So we want to really just rein it all in and we want to change it all up. So first things, when you're promoting your book, you're no longer promoting your book. So I really want for you to get this concept. Rather than selling books, you're supporting a cause. So we're taking that word promotion and we're flipping it. We're flipping it into something that feels a lot better. I certainly, I don't know about you, but I do not enjoy creating content that is literally buy my course or sign up for my coaching program. I do not enjoy creating content that's just asking people to buy something. So I'm usually quite surprised when I meet other people who are like, yeah, I love putting something out on Twitter that's like, buy my book. So this gives you permission to not have to create any more content like that. So you're no longer promoting your book, you're supporting a cause. So let's take a moment to journal and do some exercises on like what I actually mean by that. A cause could be a good reason for doing something, okay? So that might mean you're going to take it literally, like I'm going to take the cause of reading, like I'm going to promote the cause of reading. So I'm going to be in my content, instead of 75% of the time promoting my book, I'm going to spend half an hour a day creating content that teaches people about the reason that we might read. So it might be that you talk about why it's so great to read books, or why books are so great for learning stuff, or why it's so great to get offline and like be with a physical book, why it's so great to read books with other people so that you can talk about them. You might be discussing books, like why it's so great to have conversations with other people about books that you love. So you're putting out all of this really interesting content that is supporting the cause of reading. And you are not talking about your book at all. You're not telling people to buy your book. So you're no longer spending 75% of your time promoting your book. And what you're going to find, my friends, is that half an hour a day, every day that you are supporting a cause, it's going to feel a lot more rewarding. You're going to be creating content in a way that's a lot more sustainable because it feels fun to create this kind of content. And let me tell you, you're going to be making more sales than if you were simply telling people to buy your book. When I'm on Twitter and I'm in my feed, if I'm just seeing tweets about buy this or buy that, I just keep scrolling. But when I see a tweet that's offering me like a really interesting insight into the pleasure of reading, I will stop and I will read that. And then I'll be like, this person's interesting. Let me go and check their profile. And then I might have a look at their profile and I might see that they've got a book on sale. And I'm like, oh, actually, I'm going to go check that out because I really like the way they talk about reading. So the cause that you're supporting, it could be slightly more of a tangent. And so it might be that you are a romance writer and you're like, I'm going to support the cause of great communication in relationships. So you could start putting content out there that talks about how to have better conversations with your partner, how to have open discussions with the person that you're in a relationship about your feelings, how to make sure that you're having regular, intimate chats with your husband or your wife around things that are important to you. So you might be offering tips about open communication. So all of that stuff is going out. People are going to be like, oh wow, like this writer's really interesting. Like I love the cause that they're supporting. I love all the information they're giving around relationships. And then they discover that you've written a romance book. They're going to be like, oh, this is going to be a book that I really want to read because I'm really digging the way they talk about relationships. So I've got a sense I'm going to enjoy their book, which is a romance book. So again, you haven't spent 75% of your time exhausting yourself, promoting your book. You've spent, again, half an hour a day, 40 minutes a day, creating really beautiful content about the power of communication to create a healthy relationship. And you're going to be engaging in really nice conversations with people online. Like maybe people are going to start asking you questions. Maybe people are going to start saying, thanks a lot, this is what's going on in my relationship. And you might be having conversations about like, oh God, yeah, I remember having a similar problem with my boyfriend. And so you're meeting people who are interested in the same subjects as you, which also happen to be the subjects that you write about. So we've taken promotion off the table. It's not about saying, buy my book. It's about saying, I'm really interested in this cause. I'm going to support this cause. It could be the cause that you're deciding to support is the value of spending time in nature because your book is set in the jungle and you're like, actually, do you know what? The reason my book is set in the jungle is because I love nature. I love being outdoors. I want to be the kind of person that people know as somebody who shares really beautiful images around nature or shares really inspirational quotes about get out in nature and nature is great for healing. So again, you're supporting the cause of nature and then people start to really engage with your content and they go and check out your profile and they're like, oh wow, she's written a whole book that's set in a jungle. And because you've attracted nature lovers to come to your profile, they're going to be interested in your book. And at no point have you said, buy my book, it's set in the jungle, but you're allowing people to be attracted attracted to the cause that you're supporting, and that inadvertently is going to make them interested in your books. It's a much more sustainable way to talk about your work online without really promoting and thinking that you've got to spend 75% of your time doing it because you're just not getting the results that you want. So with this way, you're going to find that you get better results and you're spending less time doing it. So let's just take a moment to brainstorm. What might be some of those causes that you could support? So think about your book. Think about some of the causes that you could support in your content, some of the topics that you could write about, some of the topics that you might create images around, or some of the areas that you want to create little videos or inspirational quotes around. That could be a cause that you support, and it could be more than one. Might be that you're like, oh, well, I like the idea of supporting a cause about relationships and being in nature because I've written a romance book that's set in the jungle. So you might choose a handful of causes, but just take a moment to brainstorm while we're in the discussion in the moment. Let's have a minute. Okay. So it may be that you liked some of the ideas that I shared. It might be that you've come up with some ideas on your own, but you're getting a sense now of how it can be sustainable. So the second area that I want to talk about in terms of not making that really common mistake and also how to make it work for you. So the second mistake that I see writers making is that they don't understand that marketing is a career-long activity, not a day-long activity. So again, when I'm coming across a writer who's reaching out to have some help from me, whether they want more book sales or whether they want to grow services around selling their book, they might want to be teaching writing classes, and they reach out to me and they're just like, oh, I'm spending all day promoting. That's when I understand they're trying to do everything in one day rather than understanding that marketing is a career-long activity. Now, often we can get really impatient and we can be like, I want to sell 1,000 books, but I want to sell them yesterday because I'm broke. And of course, if we come at it with that attitude, we're going to totally stress ourselves out and we're never going to achieve what we want to achieve. I find it really useful to know that Liz Gilbert's memoir, Eat, Pray, Love, which at this moment in time has sold more than 10 million copies, okay? Huge amount of copies for a book. Eat, Pray, Love has sold more than 10 million copies. But here's the thing. When Eat, Pray, Love first came out in hardback. So hardback, you usually have the book, comes out for around about a year before you get the paperback. She did not start selling significant amounts of Eat, Pray, Love until it came out in paperback. So we can look at writers who are having mass success with their sales and we can feel like we have to have that success today rather than can I build up to having that success? So Liz Gilbert was looking at sales of hardback copies of Eat, Pray, Love thinking, no one's interested in this book, nothing's happening. But she was doing enough so that when the book came out in paperback, it started to go viral. So she was doing enough marketing over time. She was really seeing that marketing as a career-long pursuit so that within a year, those books really started to fly off the shelves. So that's how I find we can take this second step to make sure that our marketing is sustainable. So you want to be thinking about how many books do you want to sell a month, but in 1 year's time. So write that number down. In a year's time, if you were able to sell this amount of books every month, what amount would that be? So take a moment to jot that down. So you've got your number. In a year's time, you're going to be selling that amount of books. So here's where we start to see marketing as a career-long pursuit rather than like, I've got to spend all of my time marketing right now because I need to be selling these books now. You're like, what am I going to be doing over the next year so that in a year, this is the amount of books that I'm going to be selling. And that is a major, major shift. It's very significant to start seeing it like that. So you start to get aware of you're going to be doing it differently, right? If you had a whole year to then start selling 100 books or 1,000 books, whatever amount you want to be selling a month, if you had a whole year to get to that place, you'd be behaving significantly different to how you're behaving right now. And so that's why we can get into a trap. We're behaving right now in a panic. We're trying to sell and we're not selling. And so we're just throwing more time at it, rather than saying, how can I spread this out? How can I make marketing my career rather than something that literally has to take place in a weekend? So there we go, my friends. Some really key ways to start seeing it differently, how to not make those mistakes and how to make sure that it's sustainable. There is also another video that I want to tell you about. I'm going to put a link to it below. So if you're feeling a bit icky about promoting yourself and you want to feel great in that area, then I'm going to put a link for another video that I've got on this channel that's going to be really beneficial. And also, if you have found this useful and you want to go deeper into marketing and online stuff and creating content, then you might want to come and join the Right No Matter What community. We've got a session every month called the Social Surgery. And in that session, we look at everything social media. It's like a doctor's appointment for your social media woes, and it takes place every month. So you might want to sign up and join the community. There's a free version and there's a paid version, depending on how much of me you want in your life. But if you feel like that support is going to be useful, then there's a link below and you can check out more about the community. Of course, we would love to have you with us. So I hope today had some light bulbs come on for you. If you had any insights, share them in the comments. You know how much I love that. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Take care.